This video will contain spoilers for the end of Arc 5 and contain minor spoilers for the start of Arc 6, so do keep that in mind. Some of you are wondering why I'm making a video on an Arc 5 interlude. After all, you've already read everything from Arc 5, correct? Well, not exactly, because at the end of Arc 5 there are 3 interlude chapters as shown on screen, and Witch Cult translations have never actually translated these chapters. The reason why these interlude chapters are important is because they focus around Garfield and his relationship with Mimi and of course with his biological mother and how he sort of approaches that relationship. Either way, this is the first interlude chapter, and big thanks to Eminent Translations who has helped me translating the title of the chapter. Arc 5 Interlude 1 starts up with someone who is confused about their position in the world. This person is actually Garfield, but the web novel doesn't tell us exactly who it is until later on. Garfield thinks back to the final words that Kurgan, one of the people known as a hero, said to him as he died. The word that Kurgan said was magnificent. Garfield is still trying to process this information and come to a final answer because he's currently stuck and he doesn't know how to move forward. If you've seen my Typhon's Trial video, you would know that Garfield is helping in the priestella reconstruction efforts. Due to Garfield's speed and agility, he's able to access buildings which are not normally accessible, and he enters a building which has been partially demolished. During his scouting of this half-demolished building, he doesn't find any survivors, but he does find a child's doll, so he takes the doll and puts it in his pocket. As he makes his way outside, he gets thanked by the people around him for doing what he's doing to help the city of Priestella. Garfield kinda shrugs it off and looks behind him and sees a parent and child. Due to Garfield's keen sense of smell, he realizes that the doll actually belongs to the child and gives the doll to the child. Despite being constantly thanked, Garfield still doesn't know the position he has in the world and how to move forward. Also, on top of that, even though the witch cult attack has ended, there are still a few problems, like the flies which were transformed by Capella, and of course the nameless people which were victims of Batinkatos and Roy Alphard during their attack on Priestella. Garfield obviously recognizes that the solution is to go see the great sage Shula. Now keep in mind this is Arc 5, so the people of the rezero world don't know that Shula is the apprentice and Flugel is actually the sage. Because of Garfield's infatuation with people that were strong and heroes of legend, of course he knew about the Divine Dragon Volcanica, the Sword Saint Redastria, and of course the sage Shula. However, despite his knowledge on heroes, Garfield felt that the information about the Great Sage was really vague. Of course, Garfield, who loves heroes, would have loved to have gone to the Watchtower. However, Subaru stated that he had another place to defend. He needed to make sure that he could guard Otto just in case the witch cultists came back to the city. After all, Garfield was one of the few people that were strong enough to fight against the witch cult. Unfortunately, Garfield couldn't really rationalize this, and he again resorted into thinking that he was useless, because if Subaru found a use for Garfield, he would have taken Garfield to the Pleiades Watchtower. After all, he was half battered when he took Garfield to fight Elsa, so the reason why he didn't take Garfield to the Pleiades Watchtower was because Garfield was weak. At least that was Garfield's interpretation. Garfield gets visited by Mimi, who invited Garfield out to lunch. Garfield couldn't really refuse this, so he went along with it. Garfield noticed that she's upbeat after everything that's happened, and Mimi states that is her selling point and that she's a tough guy. Mimi inquires if Garfield is falling in love with her and the way she is, and Garfield states that he doesn't love Mimi, but she isn't disappointed with that response. Instead, she's energetic as normal. Garfield asks Mimi how her wounds are doing. After all, Mimi suffered a fatal wound due to Garfield's inability to follow instructions. Of course, the wound that Mimi suffered was caused by Theresia van Astria, and thus it could not be healed because of her blessing of the Death God, which prevents wounds from closing. Of course, Mimi was only able to survive due to her divine protection of trisection, which shares her burdens with her twin brothers. Despite this, Mimi was really upbeat, and Garfield asks if she should thank her brothers a bit more because if it wasn't for them, she would have died. Mimi states that they took a burden and had the risk of also dying, and the only reason why they did that is because they wanted Mimi to live, and if they all died as a result, it was due to the love that they had for each other. Despite this though, Mimi was still angry at her younger brothers. Garfield ponders upon whether or not he would want his loved ones to die alongside him, realizing he couldn't come up with an answer. Instead, he thought about Ram. What would Ram do? Garfield believes Ram would die for the sake of Roswell, which is something Garfield doesn't like. Garfield again wanted clarification on why Mimi risked her life for him despite barely knowing him for a few days, and Mimi responds that she loves him. Obviously, the length of time doesn't matter for love to form, but rather what matters is the depth of those feelings. Garfield thinks about his romantic feelings towards Ram and the fact that he hasn't given up on Ram for over 7 years, which is half his life. Garfield pondered about the fact that Mimi's siblings risked their lives to save Mimi, to which Mimi responded that this is known as the couple's conditions. This is the idea that if you have someone to spend time with, it's only natural to disagree with each other, and therefore it's best to pick someone to be with where you wouldn't mind arguing with them. Garfield again states that Mimi could have died, and Mimi again counters with the idea that even though that they could have died together, at least now they can live together side by side. Garfield realizes that even though Mimi can't really convey her emotions and put them into words, she's actually illuminating a path forward for him and providing a solution to the question that he cannot find an answer towards. Mimi once again asks if Garfield loves her. Of course, this is now the third time in the chapter that she's asked this, and this is the third time that Garfield has declined. Garfield and Mimi continue their journey towards the dining hall to get some food, and now with Mimi's prodding, Garfield's able to think to himself and rationalize what Kurgan actually wanted when he stated that it was magnificent at the end of their battle. In the dining hall where Garfield was looking to find 2 seats, he meets an old man. This old man is Wilhelm van Astria, and Garfield and Wilhelm share a parallel considering both of them were versing the zombie puppets, which were Theresia and Kurgan. The chapter ends with it stating that another solution will present itself to Garfield during this conversation, and that this meeting was not irrelevant. That's the end of the chapter. Let me know if you would like me to make summaries of Interlude 2 and Interlude 3. I don't know if they're ever going to get translated, but if I get any news, I'll make a post about it. Anyways, this is going to be my ending screen, so see you guys next time.